Let's have you answer 9 simple, easy to figure out questions and see if we can't turn your marketing and sales and therefore the profitability of your health business. Let's just see if we can't turn up the volume on that. Okay. If you have not checked out my book, Get Cash Pay Clients, How Upfront Labs Create a Wildly Profitable Health Business with Less Work, then that would be helpful for you to go deeper on the concepts that we're going to touch on today. Okay. So obviously we can't cover everything that's it covered in that book in such a short session. Had marbles in my mouth today. But I want to make sure that you have access to that. So I'll make sure to share a QR code on screen where you can get this if you want to go deeper on this topic. Okay. But basically, I'm going to take you through a 9-point assessment, 9 questions that you can ask yourself to see if you might be doing something, just one thing in your business completely back asswards. Okay. And that one thing would be the positioning of where you use the invitation to get lab testing. Okay. So I don't know any functional medicine health coaches or MDs or NDs or RNs or NPs that don't in some way incorporate testing, right? So what I want to show you is a quick reminder of what I'm encouraging you to do. And then we're going to drop right into these 9 questions. Okay. If you're on with me live, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and put these answers in the chat, and then let's see how we're doing here. And I want you to have some feedback on this. Okay. So that's the book if you want to go deeper. I'm going to share one more thing here. Okay. Because that is getting the book through the funnel that my team and I built. Okay. But also you can get this book on Amazon. Like it hit number 1 on Amazon. And if you don't have the money to throw down for the book, I still would want you to use that QR code and go to Amazon. And then inside it, you know how you can like preview books on Amazon? If you just look at the preview of the book, I'll grab one so you can see it. Okay. If you look at the preview of the book, it's going to let you see like the inside cover and the table of contents and like part of chapter 1, right? But if you just look at the preview and you use this QR code right here, you will be able to get the workbook for free. Okay. So if you want to use some of the graphics that I'm going to show you today as I guide you through this, that's a way to grab it for free. Okay. So if you want to do that, grab it. Obviously, I hope that you buy the book. The book is making a huge difference in profitability for other people. But you do you. I realize not everybody can manage that. Okay. So let me get this out of our way. And then I'm going to switch gears here. And then I might just need confirmation that you guys can see my iPad clearly, because sometimes it ends up being like backwards when we look at it. That looks like you guys can see that normally, right? Okay. So it is live. Yes. So we have someone on here wondering like, is this live or is it pre-recorded? No, girl, it's live. Let's do this together. So I'm hoping that you'll answer the questions live and I can even give you feedback for how you're doing. Okay. But before I ask you to answer 9 questions, that's a lot in today's attention span economy, right? That I'm going to ask you to answer 9 questions. What a huge ask. Okay. In order for you to understand the importance of this, I think it's important that you understand what I'm asking you to do is make the switch from a cost first approach, something that costs you money, meaning your marketing, your client acquisition costs you a ton of time and money, versus a revenue first approach. And by revenue first, I mean you literally make money at the top of your marketing. So at the very beginning of your customer journey, you're setting yourself up to make money. Okay. So if you answer these 9 questions and you take my advice on how to change your answers to the 9 questions when they're not, when those answers indicate that you're not setting yourself up for profitability, then you can make this switch. Okay. But I want you to understand, why is this switch even important? Okay. And the reason that this is important is because when you're using the cost first approach, and I'm not going to shame or blame anybody who's using this approach, because this is how people were taught to market. Okay. I've been in the marketing in the health and wellness space for well over a decade, approaching 15 years now. And back in the day, like this is the way I would have taught you to do it. Okay. But because the algorithms have changed, and we'll go into that as we go through things today, because the algorithms have changed, this is no longer the most effective way to do this. Okay. So it used to be that everyone taught you, let's go ahead and attract some attention. Okay. And then once we attract that attention, well, now we need to nurture people. And how do we nurture them? Typically, you were probably taught, oh, give them a free PDF, a checklist, some cool thing, right? So that you get them on your email list. And then you can automate all of those emails. And that's how you were nurturing them, right? So you got their attention over here. Hi, I'm here. And then you would offer them something free, and that would get them on your email list. And then you would email them ad nauseum until hopefully they like bought something for you, or, they got so old they died or whatever. And then your hope was that they would enroll. Okay. And then once you enrolled them into the idea of working with you, then and only then were you like, yeah, you know what? You need some labs. Okay. So you're actually delivering your skills. Okay. And how were you delivering your skills? Typically, most of you are starting with ordering labs. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you, when you use this method right here, you're going all in on labs, right? So you might be like, okay, I need the organic acids test and functional blood panel, and I need a GI map, and I also want a hormone test. You might be making them throw down a ton of money for testing. Okay. There's going to be a slight difference in the way that we navigate this when we do the revenue first approach. This one over here. Okay. So as we look at the revenue first approach, which is actually what's working now with the way that algorithms have changed, social media has changed, online activity has changed, competition in the marketplace has changed, right? So for that, here's what's working for the practitioners that are in my Practitioner Accelerator Mastermind. Okay. And I will tell you, the people in this mastermind are focused on, they're on the track to being $1 million businesses, meaning they earn 83.3K a month or more in their business. That's $1 million run rate, right? So if you're bringing in 83.3K, you're in the $1 million practitioner club. Okay. So that's what they're all about. Okay. That's what that whole community is about. If you haven't heard of that community, if you don't know about that community, but you want to know about that community, please make sure that you use that QR code and book a game plan session and let us chat with you and see whether or not you're ready for something like this. And if you're not, then we'll refer you to the tool that you need immediately to make it to the next step so that you are ready to be part of that community. Nobody, like, spoiler alert, right? Nobody in that community started out being ready, right? Some of them had foundational work that they needed to do. That's totally normal. And we'll point you to whatever foundational work you need to do. Okay. So now the approach that's working and the 9 questions you'll be answering to see if you can rock this method and start elevating your revenue in your business. Okay. What we need to do instead of this current method here, which is no longer converting the way that it used to, nowhere near. Okay. Now, yes, I still want you to attract attention. You're going to do that in a very different way. You will find out that you will be doing that with something that I call symptoms-based marketing. Okay. And we're going to get into that when we answer the 9 questions. I'll explain it in more detail. You still will be attracting, it's just in a slightly different way. So we're going to attract attention. When we get that attention by talking about the symptoms that they're experiencing, not in geeky medical language, but in regular everyday human speak, okay, we're going to stop the scroll by having them feel like, oh my God, that person is talking about me. They're literally talking about how I feel today, right? That's how we stop the scroll. Then after we resonate with them about how they feel, then we're going to say, hey, listen, there's a lab that I use to check out my own patients who are struggling like that. So we're going to move the labs from way down here at the bottom when you spent all this time and money to get them enrolled with you. And we're actually going to make that offer right here up at the top. That's how come it's revenue first, because we're going to offer them the lab and we're going to add what's called an education and resource fee, which is legal, you guys, right? I know in a lot of states, you're like, I can't upchart my labs. I can't upcharge labs. Like if the lab costs me $100, I have to charge $100. I can't add on another $100 Yes, you can if you provide education or resources for them during the span of time that they're, waiting for this lab result. Okay. So we're going to add an education or resource fee on top of that. So we're going to attract their attention with symptoms based content. We're going to say, hey, if you're experiencing these symptoms, it's highly likely that something's misfiring in this system of the body. Talk about that. So you look like a genius. Okay. And then say, and I've arranged for you to have access to the same lab test that I use with my patients and clients. I just went to the lab and said, hey, can you make this available through a signing physician? That way you're not on the hook. You don't look like the doctor. You don't look like you're providing medical care because you're not. You're using a signing physician. Okay. And then they ordered the lab and bammo, you started making money at the top. That's why it's called the revenue first approach. Okay. Now, instead of having to do a shit ton of nurturing like you did over here, you have actually done the pre-qualify piece, the pre-qualification right here. Why? Because all of the people who go through this process right here may or may not have the dedication and the funds and the willingness to invest those funds in working with you. But when you offer the lab up front, right here between this step and this step, you have pre-qualified them because they have self-selected by showing you, I'm willing to pay for the lab. I'm willing to get smart, data to tell me what my body needs. And so this nurture, the need to nurture a whole big bunch is shrunken down because the data that they see in the labs will help them see that they need you. So in essence, instead of you start delivering some form of your expertise by telling them, oh, this symptom, these symptoms that my patients have, these symptoms you might be experiencing are typically very aligned with this system of the body. And we can test that system of the body with this particular test. You've already started to deliver your expertise. Okay. And that delivery of your expertise is in the form of access to the lab, which before you were not providing until down here. And also the education and resources that you provide, they already start falling in love with you and your brand because you're providing helpful information between the span of time where they're most anxious, right? So they said yes to ordering the lab and they're waiting for their results. Perfect time for you to show up with your superhero cape and provide information that calms their anxiety and lets them know, hey, no matter what this test solves, we're going to get this, we're going to get to the other side of this and we can do that together. Okay. And when your lab tests come in, I'll show you the ways that I can help you with that. Okay. So that means you are doing the enrolling, right, a lot easier because the data from the labs does the heavy lifting of the selling. Okay. So that's what this process that we're talking about today, that's why I want you to do that. Okay. So before I move on, I'm just going to make sure everybody's understanding like exactly why we're doing this. If not, throw a hand up in the chat, throw a question in the chat. And if there doesn't look like there's any questions, so I'm going to assume you guys get this or kind of get this, and you'll continue to go deeper as we move on. Okay. So what I want you to use, I want you to be empowered to use is called the symptoms plus science equals sales method. Okay. And you guys, again, I go deep into this and share success stories with you in this book of your practitioner peers that this is already changing their life. This is already creating funnels that, near 80% of their income is coming from this funnel and from automated offers that are behind that funnel. So in other words, the percentage of money they're making from their practice by doing one-on-one sessions is shrinking. And the amount of money they're making from automated lab test sales and maybe supplement sales behind that, and then yes, one-on-one sessions or group programs, the percentage of money that they're making from that is drastically increased. And therefore they can take down the volume of one-on-one that they have to do. And they just take on one-on-one clients with people who pay a little more, are more dedicated, and therefore they enjoy the process a whole big bunch more. Okay. So let me tell you exactly what the symptoms plus science equals sales framework. Let me tell you a little bit about how it works. Okay. So basically, I want the whole point of this formula is to achieve these things for you. Okay. So the first thing that I want you to achieve is monetizable attention. Okay. So when I say monetizable attention, I mean, I want you to have an audience of people that is not just freebie seekers and tire kickers and people who want a lot of free information and free consults with you, but they have no intention of buying. I actually want you to get the attention of people who are committed to their health and they're willing to take action. Okay. So I want you to have monetizable attention instead of just views and just followers, but they're not serious people. Okay. The next thing that I want you to have is actual sales, right? So I want you to have lab test sales. Okay. Why? Because that gets you paid upfront to do your marketing. And as soon as you start getting paid upfront to do your marketing, you're more motivated to do your marketing. And I don't know a lot of practitioners who absolutely love doing their marketing. So getting paid helps a lot. Okay. And then from those lab test sales, I want you to have a ton more cash pay clients. Okay. And I don't mean that they walk up with a bag of cash. I mean, these are the type of people who are willing to pay cash out of pocket. They're not expecting this to be covered by their insurance. They understand functional and precision medicine is something that they pay for out of pocket. Okay. So I want you to have monetizable attention, lab test sales right away, and way more cash pay clients. Why? Because ultimately, I want you to have an extremely profitable health business. Okay. And I know that this works because it works for the members of my mastermind and for the case studies that you'll hear when you pick up your copy of this book. Okay. So I want you to have an extremely profitable health business. Okay. So if you want to know the formula for that, and I'm going to have you ask yourself 9 questions, you need to know that there are 3 areas of work we have to do. And you know that because literally it's symptoms, okay, plus science equals sales. So let me break down each one of these for you. Okay. Symptoms is where you're going to go from being like some obscure person, right? Some like, who is this person? I don't know who this practitioner is. Why are they talking about all these random things? Like sometimes they talk about vitamin D and sometimes they talk about metabolism. What even is metabolism? I don't even know what that is. So you're talking to the general public, you guys, who does not have your medical knowledge. Okay. And when you don't speak their language, you're just some other obscure person who's just blabbing off at the mouth, but you're not speaking to them. You're not connecting with them. Okay. And when you take on this symptoms piece of the puzzle, you're going to go from obscure to the obvious choice. Oh my gosh, this person is speaking my language. They talk about me. They understand my language. They're not speaking down to me. Oh my God, this person is the obvious choice for me to work with. Okay. So let's start first with the symptoms. How do I go from being just another random practitioner in the online space to actually being the person who they know they want to work with? Okay. Even if they need to see a few more videos or whatever, they know that you're the person that they want to work with. How do we do that? Okay. There's 3 questions for you to ask yourself to make sure that you can do a bang up job and that you can have a really high profit business. Okay. The first is that you have to get clear on who is suffering. Okay. And you've probably heard, if you're trying to ramp up the marketing and sales in your business, you've probably had people tell you, oh, you have to get clear on your avatar. Who is it that you want to serve? Same idea. Okay. So you have to get really clear on who you're speaking to. If you're just putting out content and it's meant for everybody, nobody's listening. Okay. But if you dial in, it's like me, I could give marketing advice for anybody who like a used car salesman or something, but like, that's not fulfilling for me. What's fulfilling for me is helping health professionals who want to deliver scalable offers online succeed and make shit tons of money and escape the clinic life and help people from anywhere in the world that they want to be in a lot less hours in the day. That's my jam. Okay. So is that every practitioner under the sun? Is that a practitioner who just has a cushy job at Kaiser and they clock in at 8 and they clock out at 5? No. It's a very narrow subset of people. The more narrow and specific you are, the more your conversations will resonate with people, right? Just think about for yourself. Let's say that you're really good at putting, I don't know, like autoimmune conditions into the past. Okay. Let's just say that you're really good at that. Well, if you're trying to talk with everyone who has autoimmune versus saying, hey, I help moms who are struggling with autoimmune condition, Well, that means your content is going to address the specific challenge of moms who are trying to navigate autoimmune, which is a challenge, right? Because they're tired all the time, their focus is tough. So you're actually going to help them with all the mom specific things, which is completely different than helping someone who's like a high powered executive who has autoimmune, but she's got a completely different set of problems, right? So the more we niche down and say, this is the audience that I want to serve, it gives me great joy to serve that audience. The more clear you are with that, the better your marketing content is going to land. Okay. So, what I want you to do right now is I want you to rate yourself. Okay. On a scale of, and all of these, actually, let's do it the easy way. Let's just rate yourself super, super easy. Okay. Go, am I green? Like a green light, go, meaning, oh my gosh, I've totally got this. I know that I speak directly to a very specific subset of people. I've got it. I'm not worried about whether or not I'm being accurate. Okay. Or are you yellow? Well, I kind of try to, but I haven't really figured it out, or I'm not really sure who I want to serve. I'm nervous to narrow down my audience because right now I just need a shit ton of business to make things financially work. Okay. That's a scarcity mindset that will shoot your business in the foot, by the way. Okay. Then you would rate yourself red. Okay. So we're going to use this simple rating system up here. So we'll use this simple rating up system, be like a stoplight, right? So we'll just use that as our grading system. So I want to know, are you red? Like, oh, I'm talking to everybody. No wonder my marketing's not working. I'm trying to speak to everybody under the sun. You would be red. Okay. Yellow. Oh, I haven't niched down. I'm nervous about niching down. I haven't really done it well or very accurately. You'd be yellow. Green is I know exactly who I speak to, right? Like I speak to women of faith who have school age children and they're addressing their fertility because they want a second baby. Wow. Like that's like you are really, really clear about who you want to serve. Okay. So that you would be bright green because you're super, super clear. Okay. Now, what is the next piece that you would have to nail in order for this to work for you? You would have to be really clear on how they complain. Sorry, my thing is shrinking here. Oops. Let me see if I can get back in here without and make it full screen. Okay, that's just weird. One sec, you guys. My Notability just did something super weird. All right. Well, we'll just keep going. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, there we can just stretch it back out. Okay, there we go. Okay, so how they complain. Sorry about that. Okay, now here's what I notice that you guys will tend to do wrong. And there is if you get that worksheet, there is an exercise in the book that talks you through it, but I'm just going to show you some examples that I give you in the book about really, really understanding how your audience complains. Because a lot of times, this is where your brilliance, your medical knowledge, your expertise will kind of trip you up and get in the way, right? You can be talking about things like hormone dysregulation, for example. But what they are actually saying to their girlfriends, their families, things at the dinner table, they're like, I feel like a different person half the month, right? Or when my cycle is happening. Okay. The same thing. You guys might be out there talking about estrogen dominance when you really need to stop the scroll by saying, hey, do you cry at commercials and then have a breakdown at your kids? You need to start with the content that's on this side of the line, because this is how your people talk. And then after you have stopped the scroll, okay, so this is how you stop the scroll, okay, these are scroll stop, okay, over here. After you stop the scroll, then of course you can show off your knowledge and say, hey, are you feeling like this right here? I hear you, I see you, I got you. Let's talk about what could be happening. It could be something called hormone dysregulation. And there's an easy way to find out about that. Then you give them access to the test, right? You just made a small sale up front. You just filtered for a serious buyer. You just gave them access to the data that's going to show them that they need to work with you. Okay. But if you don't get that part right, if you're not using their language, the things that they say, This is one of my favorite examples. Like you'll use the term amenorrhea when people are like, what the hell? My period's gone. It just disappeared. Okay. They might not even know what that word is. They're like, I never even heard that. How do you spell that? I want to Google it, but I don't even know. Okay. So when you rate yourself, what I want you to think through is exactly how well you are describing their symptoms in words that they would use. That's what's important. Not the words that you would use, but the words that they would use. Okay. So let me come back over here now. Okay. So that's how they complain. Are you red, yellow, or green? Okay. Are you red, yellow, or green? If you're starting with all the medical jargon instead of the language that they would use by, just at lunch with their best friend, you are red. Okay. If you're trying, so you come out and you talk about vitamin D and then you talk about all of the problems that can happen if they're low in vitamin D, then you're yellow. You know you need to do it. You've just flipped the script. You started with vitamin D as the answer, but they don't care about the answer because you're not asking them the right question. The right question is, are you exhausted all the time? Are you not? Is your sleep cycle messed up? Right? We want to start with the things that are bothering with them at the front of the conversation. Okay. Then the next thing that you need to understand is, are you able to show them which system needs attention? Okay. So let's say that you are having the conversation with them about, okay, you're trying to so let's say we're in the fertility space. You all of a sudden decide you want to have a second baby and your period has disappeared. And so, that's even more frustrating because then you think you're pregnant and you're not pregnant and it's causing you even more anxiety and upset. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about a really accurate hormonal test where we can start to chart your cycle, get your cycle normalized, and then timing sex becomes relevant because we can ramp up your fertility if we're timing sex at the right time, right? So whatever your protocol is, if you can connect the dots with them to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is the symptom that is happening for you. Maybe you do something like alopecia. Okay. So the pigment is disappearing in a certain part of your skin. Let me talk to you about what could be going on. That could be an autoimmune response. Here's how it works. Here's why it's happening. Let me tell you that there is a test I always start with my clients, and it has to do with testing the immune function of the body. That would be an introduction. That would be a graceful introduction to, here's your problem. Let me educate you about that a little bit and what system of the body might be at play here. And then let me give you access to a specific test. You guys following me? Okay. So that's you being able to articulate, hey, this is a symptom problem. Okay. That's how they complain. This is a system of the body we might want to dig into and look at. This is my first line where I would investigate with my own patients and clients. Then it makes it easier for you to transition to the invitation to actually get the test. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the next section here. And in this next section, this is what I call science. And this is where you're going to go from interacting with freebie seekers. These are the people who just want your free handouts and your free stuff. And they certainly want to hop on a free consult with you. Okay. And you're going to move to actual cash pay clients who are willing to throw down some money for the lab. Okay. So now that's going to get you a sale, but it's also filtering for people who are like, oh my God, yeah, I would pay out of my own pocket, not through my insurance, but out of my own pocket. I would be willing to pay for this because things are so frustrating for me. I want that data really bad. Okay. So that means we need to move on to answering the next 3 questions to see if you can do this in your business. Okay. And that is, can you clearly articulate which test to offer? Okay. I would expect that the vast majority of you who follow me, you're a bright green in this area. Okay. Because you've probably been using testing for a while. You probably already have your favorite tests. So knowing which test you would want to lead with is probably bright green for you, I would hope. Okay. Now, the next thing here is you have to understand how. Okay. How to offer labs the right way. Okay. And when I say the right way, what I'm talking about is not giving the perception that these people are under your medical care. Okay. So for example, if, I was just following you on social media and we got to chit chatting and you knew the exact prescription that I needed to solve my problem, as in medical prescription, like to the pharmacy, you would not call that into the pharmacy because I'm not your patient yet. We have no legal agreements. We have no payment arrangements. We have nothing to protect you or me from any legal nonsense that could go wrong here, right? Like that's a high jeopardy situation, very dangerous for you, very dangerous for them. You would not prescribe medicine. Also, do not prescribe labs, right? Like you ordering the lab could easily be taken as a perception of you brought that person under your medical care, under your legal care. And that's not what we want to do. And so when I say you need to understand how to offer labs in the right way, what I'm talking about is making sure that you have a funnel, a process where you can have people order these labs, and all of those lab orders go through a signing physician. Okay. Now, some of you might have not have even heard of ordering through a signing physician. A lot of you have, like, especially the health coaches, the nutritionists, a lot of the fitness people, they're already down with this because they're not legally licensed to order labs. So they already have to use a signing physician. So some of you do know who it is, but or you do know about this option. But others of you, like MDs, NDs, RNs, people who are used to being able to order labs directly, you might never have bothered to learn about the ability to order through a signing physician. But when you order it through a signing physician, you are not the person ordering that lab. They are ordering that lab. And that is a much better protection mechanism for you because they're not your client yet. They haven't said yes to being your client or patient. Okay. So how to offer the labs in the right way? Do you know how to do that? If you do, then you're bright green. If you kind of understand, but you haven't set it up yet, you're yellow. And if you're like, oh shit, I've just been ordering the labs for people, you are bright red, and you are also putting yourself in legal jeopardy. Okay. I want to connect you to, let me just throw up a QR code for my favorite attorney who has a great mini disclaimer. So this is not all of the legal, stuff you need to operate online, but I at least want to give it to you because I think it's a great starting point. And this is a free mini disclaimer from attorney Lisa Frawley. I absolutely adore her. When I have a challenge for anyone in my mastermind, when I'm not sure what's black, what's white, and I like to stay very black and white. I don't like anybody in the gray areas. I think that's very dangerous. I don't want you to end up in an orange jumpsuit. She is my go-to expert for this. So I highly recommend use that scan code, go to her site. You will see the mini disclaimer and it will have a cost associated with it. But at checkout, if you enter the code JOY, J-O-Y, that's my first name, Joy, J-O-Y, then she gives it to you for free. Okay. So take advantage of that. Get started down the right legal path. Okay. There is a right way to offer upfront labs. There is a wrong way to offer upfront labs. Okay. The next one that you need to answer is going to be what the data means. Okay. So let's pop back over here. The next question that you need to answer is what the data means. Okay. Now, here's another opportunity for you to make a sale in your business. So I'm going to dial back in here. Okay. So when you offer the test, as long as you're offering it here in the right way, if you're offering the test here, you already started making money for your business. Okay. You made the education and resource fee. Now, when those results come in, you can also charge for the lab interpretation session. Okay. So you can charge over here and start getting money coming into your business. Yay. Okay. And then for the people who would like a private interpretation session with you, okay, there's another option for your business to start making money. Yay. So instead of us going to you guys offering straight, like, hey, I hope they buy my 5K, 7K, 10K package to work with me for 3 or 5 months or 6 months, whatever you're doing. Instead of doing the marketing and the sales calls and the consults and asking for that huge sale, you're asking for a small sale upfront, just one lab. And then you're asking for just one lab interpretation session with you, which they pay for. So now you've filtered for buyers. You've got a small investment for the sales call. Okay. So the lab interpretation is your opportunity to connect with them and also to enroll them. So now you're getting paid to do the lab session. Does that make sense? I love that. Okay. When you get them on that call, you need to have an artistic way to share with them Let me back this up a little bit. So when we're here at this, what the data means, we want to be able to show them what the data means, whether or not they invest in the call with us. Okay. So let's actually take this little money sign here. Okay. And we're going to move this over here. Okay. Because what we want to do is actually provide answers to everybody who purchased the test, whether or not they book the private call with us. We want to give answers to them. So essentially what we do is we film a video. I call it the lab explanation video. Okay. The lab explanation video is simply a video of you saying, hey, you invested in this test. I'm going to walk you through what each of these indicators on the test means. And I'm going to share some stories with you of clients that I have seen when it was high, when it was low. So you might see yourself in some of these stories, but don't worry. If all of this is overwhelming to you, you will have the opportunity to book a discounted session with me to interpret your labs privately. Okay. So in other words, we want everybody who ordered the test to get some value from you. Why? Because that value is going to cause them to be endeared to you, and they're going to see how genius you are. Oh my gosh, listen to this person talk about all these indicators on the lab and share stories of people who they've helped who were miserable like me, but now they're happy and fulfilled and they're over their condition. This is amazing. This person is so smart. That's what we want. Okay. So we want this lab explanation video to position you as an expert. It's one video, you guys. Like it could be a 15, 20 minutes. If you want to ramble on for longer, it could be longer, but just a basic explanation of, hey, what's on this test and what do these things mean? Share a couple of success stories. It's your chance to shine. Okay. It's your chance to shine and show off your expertise, thereby eliminating. Do you remember when I said that in the old method here, there was all of this nurturing that went on right here? Okay. Instead of months or even years of people being on your list and maybe they see a video here and there, you are actually delivering this awesome video. And in that one video, you show off your expertise and thereby shorten the customer journey. So the time between they find you and they invest in your major package, your 2-month, 3-month, 6-month package, whatever you sell, that timeline can be radically compressed using this method. Okay. All right. So now we want everybody to have that video on what the data means. Now, the next one here that you need to answer, okay, is who books a consultation? Because you don't actually want everybody to book that consult. You want the people who are what? Serious, right? You want people who are like, oh my God, this person gave me access to the lab. I loved the lab explanation video. I want them to look at my personal labs. I want them to put their expert attention on me, on my labs, and see what we can do to solve this damn problem that I'm really sick and tired of. I want to get rid of it. Okay. So that's the kind of people that we want to book on the call, and that we can charge for this call. So not everybody will pass through this wall right here. Only the people who are serious buyers will pass through the call, because again, your brand is going to get paid for that interpretation call. But essentially what you've just done is gone from doing free calls with unqualified people to doing paid consultations where they have the labs and the labs help them see exactly how much they need you. Okay. So that's a winning filter for you right there. That's a game changer in your business model if all you did was that. Okay. So rate yourself on how well you could set yourself up for who books the consult. And if you want to, when it comes to rating yourself here, the question that you ask yourself is, oh, could I record a video that would walk people through the indicators on the lab test that I would want to sell right now? And if the answer to that is, yeah, I could turn on the camera and talk about that video forever. As a matter of fact, I would have to limit my time so I don't blab on and on and on. Okay. Then you would be bright green. Okay. And if you're like, oh, I do know the lab, I would be a little bit nervous, I would have to practice on camera, then you're yellow. If you're like, I don't even know enough about this lab to speak intelligently about the results, you're bright red. And why would you offer that lab? You need to offer a different lab. Okay. So that's how you would rate yourself, red, yellow, or green on this question right here on the what question. Okay. And then for the who books a consult, the way to tell if you're red, yellow, or green is, do you have a way to accept a paid consult visit? Okay. And if you do, then you're probably bright green. So if you already have the link where people could set up a paid consult with you, then you're bright green. Okay. If you already have that set up as a free consult, but you don't have a paid version, you would be yellow. If you don't currently have a good way to take from money from people who want to book a lab interpretation session with you, you're bright red. Okay. So that's a big problem that you would need to solve. Okay. Now, the next thing is now you're going to have paying people who are on this call. The next thing you would have to be able to do is understand how to review results. Because all they would have paid for at this time. So as the person is kind of like moving their way through your funnel like this, the only thing that they've paid for right now is they've paid for the test results. So we'll use pink as our person. Okay. So they recognized you as someone who was speaking directly to them. Oh, I'm a mom with autoimmune conditions. She's speaking directly to me. Okay. And then you landed it. You put something in my feed where I was like, oh my God, it's like the Lord or something put her in front of me today, the universe, the whatever, whoever you believe in, put this person right in my feed. They're speaking my language. They're talking about exactly what struggles I have. Oh my gosh, this is a miracle that I even ended up in my feed. Okay. And then you show me which system of my body. My immune system needs testing. Okay. So you showed me which system of my body. You gave me access to that test. You told me which test I would be getting access to. You offered it to me in such a way that it was through a signing physician, not on your license. Okay. And then I got my test. I sent in the sample. I got my answers back. Now I'm watching your video of what I should understand about my test results, what each one of the indicators mean. I'm seeing you sharing success stories. So now I'm thinking you're brilliant and I want you to look personally at my lab test results. So now I book a consult. Okay. Now, this is hugely important. As I move into this next step, some people will be very, very respectful of your time. Other people will want to push the limits of what they get out of you on that call. Okay. Has anybody ever had that challenge where you're like, man, okay, I'm on the consult, but basically in this consultation, which is like a free consult or a paid lab interpretation session, in this session, this person is expecting me to diagnose them, treat them, cure them, give them prescriptions, order additional testing that it's apparent that they need based on these test results. They're expecting your full 3-month package of care on one consult. That will happen to you. Okay. So you will need an infrastructure, like a system, a formula for reviewing the labs, and you will need to set yourself up with a few well-rehearsed canned responses to inquiries that are crossing your boundaries, meaning they're asking you to diagnose, treat, prescribe, give them all their menu plans, their supplement regimen, diet, like write prescriptions, all that stuff. Okay. So you need to have a plan in place to kind of like jujitsu that when it happens, right? I give you lots of examples of this in the book. So if you guys don't have your copy, I'll put that QR code up here because I think it's really important that you develop that skill. It's something that we work a lot on in practitioner accelerators. Like, how do we have sales calls that actually convert really well and also protect our expertise so people aren't expecting the full package that we would deliver over 3 months in like one consult. Okay. So if you don't already have that there's a lot in there about it. Okay. Again, if you're looking to get this kind of support on how do I do that, come on into our mastermind. You can book a game plan session with our team and see whether or not it's a good fit for you. We're very honest. We'll tell you boldly if it's not, and we'll point you to assets that'll help you get ready for that. Okay. So let's head back over here and you're almost done. You only have one more question. Okay. Okay. So you'll need to know how to review the results in a way that protect your boundaries and don't, again, have them have too many expectations. Okay. And I'm just going to give you a tip right now. One way to do that is if you're on that call and someone says to you, okay, great. I understand your interpretation of my results. I understand your interpretation of my results. What do I do about it? What prescription do I need? What supplements do I take? What hormones, whatever, right? And they ask you to do that. One easy way that you can kind of dodge that without, being manipulative at all is just to say, you are asking exactly the right questions, and you are wise to see these results and see that action is necessary. You and I don't have a doctor-patient relationship set up yet. So let's go ahead and look at what that could look like. And let me show you the ways that we could work together. And then I am in a legal position that protects you and me to go ahead and help you diagnose this problem, come up with a treatment plan, and refine it together based on the way that your body responds. That's one example of a way that you can kind of jujitsu, like somebody trying to ask you for more information than you should be providing on that call, and steer the conversation back to enrolling them in working with you, which is important. Okay. And that's really the last question. Are you ready to have a conversation with them about which offer is best? And when I say offer, sometimes practitioners are like, what are you talking about? What's an offer? Your offer is the any packages that you have for working with you. So some of you, maybe old school, you're still doing a la carte, right? The consult, and then they can pay for as many whatever biweekly sessions or bi-monthly sessions as they want. I don't love that. I think that you should sell a package. And ideally, I think that you should have a group program, like a live rolling evergreen group program, to democratize access to you, to make it cheaper, more affordable, more accessible for more people to access your knowledge. And the way to do that is to take your favorite protocol and turn it into an online program where you have live Q&A sessions, implementation sessions in between, so that your knowledge is captured in a video course. And then all you're doing is answering questions on the weeks in between them watching those videos. Very cost-effective way for people to access your knowledge. Takes a little bit to set it up, but once you have it, it's just a money-making machine that you have in your business, and it goes on forever, right? Until you need to make some adjustments or updates based on anything that happens, in the science realm, in the functional precision medicine discovery realm. But for the most part, the videos tend to stay accurate into the future. Okay. So you need to have the offers ready. Now, if I had it all my way, you would have high priced one-on-one. You would have a live evergreen group program. So that would be like a one-to-many offer. And then you would also have another one-to-many offer, which is like a DIY course for people who can't afford working with you. So in terms of expenses here, so if we're talking about all of these offers, that's giving you access to one thing, your expertise to solve their specific problem, but it's offering it at 3 different price points, and they stay hidden, right? So you offer the one-on-one if that's most what you want to sell. And then if that you get pushback, the pricing feels like it's not doable for them, then you could say, hey, there is a really cost-effective way to access my education and to work with me, but in a different capacity, in a group capacity. I've done this so that it's very affordable, right? And then if you get the sense, and only if you get the sense that those two are both out of their range, then and only then do you reveal a hidden third opportunity, which is like, hey, I've already recorded this program. It doesn't include the live access to me and the community, but if you're really committed to this, I made sure that my team can have this available for you. And that's the least expensive access to my expertise, right? So then you have 3 different price points on the call that you're likely to make that sale. Okay. If you're wanting more one-on-one, you would just be pushing for this one, and you would only offer this one if they couldn't afford that one. And if they couldn't afford this one or this one, then you could offer the least expensive model, which would be like a DIY course. Okay. So the 9 questions that you need to ask yourself. I have a typed version so you guys don't have to read my hand scratch. So let me just move this up here so you can see better. And let's see if we can get this in view. Yeah. Okay. So the 9 questions that you need to be able to assess is red, yellow, green. How good are you at connecting with the people who are suffering, the client that you want to serve? Okay. Not general audience, everybody, but you're specifically speaking to the subset of people that you want to help. Okay. Maybe you want to help, high-end achievers or business executives, that kind of person, optimize their health with peptides. Okay. That's a very specific audience. Okay. Then you need to be able to assess yourself of how good are you at stopping the scroll with the same words that they use to complain about their problem, not medical jargon, but the exact verbiage they use to complain about their problem. Then you need to be able to answer the question, which system needs attention? Okay, so if they've got that symptom, that problem, you need to help them connect the dots and see which system of the body. Maybe it's their metabolism, maybe it's their immune system, maybe it's their gut function, maybe it's their central nervous system, whatever it is. You want to help them connect the dots And then you want to invite them to have access to the test, educate them. Hey, I made it possible for you to have access to the test that I use. Okay, that's this one here. And then you need to connect them to that invitation to buy it in a way that puts them on your email list, right? So you can deliver the education and resources that you're going to get paid for. And you want that test to be ordered through a sighting physician, not through you. Okay, so you'll rate yourself on if you're able to offer labs in the right way. Okay, your ability to make a video about what the data means. Okay, your readiness to book a paid consult with someone, your ability to review the results on a call without them crossing your boundaries, and then your ability to close that call, and wrap up that call with an invitation to the best offer that you have for their current circumstances. Okay, those are the 9 questions that you need to answer in order to see how far along you are at being able to switch from that profit first model that we talked about in the beginning. So I'll just pull this up so you can see the change that we're making here. I think I have a typed version of this one too, so you don't have to deal with my hand scratch. Yes. Okay, I do. Okay, so this. Okay, so if you're ready to make the switch from this cost first approach here, and you're actually ready to make the switch to a revenue first approach, one that gets you paid right up here because you're offering the labs at the beginning, okay? And then you're also getting paid again when they want the private interpretations, okay? This is not only good because it's a revenue first approach. Let me just tell you something. Enrolling clients at the back end of this process here, as compared to this one over here, okay? People who come to us before they start implementing this method, they are basically looking at less than 25% enrollment rate. Okay. When they do this, they're typically over 50%. Okay. So they're typically going from less than 25% to over 50% enrollment rates. We have practitioners who are at a 75 and 80% enrollment rates after they go through this process. Why? Because the labs themselves help them feel like you gave them VIP access to something. The labs themselves show them from their own body data that shows how important it is that they get started working with you. Okay. So if you want to dive deeper in how this process works, again, there is an entire book. This was one of the top performing funnels. There's 3 changes that I think that all health entrepreneurs need to make in their funneling right now. I think, we used to go from free content on free platforms to free invitations, like a free webinar, a free book, a free guide, a free consult, whatever it was. So we would go from free content on free platforms to free content that they would opt into our CRM, our customer relationship management, however you're gathering like names, emails, all of that, and landing pages, that's your CRM, okay? We would go free content on free platforms to free invitations that got them into our system, okay? And that used to work, honestly, it did. It used to work. And then you would nurture them and they would buy. But the way that the algorithmic environment online has changed, those algorithms know the people who opt in for free stuff, and they know the people who opt in by buying, by making what we call a low ticket offer, right? An entry level investment, an initial lower priced offer, not your 10K package, not your 7K package, but can we get them into $100 functional panel, right? $100 functional blood panel that's comprehensive that you love, okay? And maybe that panel costs you just under $100. We can charge $150, $200. You're making an education and resource fee on top of that. You're filtering for good clients. If they want you to personally interpret it, you're making another income, another purchase there. Then by the time you have them on the call to close them into that 5, 7, 10K package to work with you, they've already indicated that they're buyers because they bought the test and then they bought the private interpretation session with you. They're already in on working with you to a degree, certainly a much higher degree than inviting people who barely know you to hop on a free consult. Good luck with that nowadays. Okay. You're going to end up being very frustrated after a lot of free consults. Okay. So if you want to dive deeper in that, I want to make sure, again, here's the book that goes into great detail, shares real success stories from practitioners who have done this exact process and completely changed the game in their practice. Okay. All right. I want to make sure that all of you guys also know if you have questions about this, I want to make sure that you know how to reach me on Instagram. Okay. So you can scan that code, it'll take you directly to my Instagram. Just DM me your questions about this process. Happy to help, very open to that. Okay. And if you're interested in getting this kind of process off the ground, it's called a lab test funnel. So let me just show you. I already have a lab test funnel that's built out. Like it's already built for you. You just customize it. It's built on Kartra. It's built on Go High Level. And then there's also a full funnel flowchart that shows you the visuals of the landing pages, the thank you page, everything, in case you just want to build it on whatever you're currently on. Maybe you're like a Wix person and you just love it. So then you can just look at the pages and replicate exactly how it is. So let me make sure that you have access to that too, because some of you are going to take this and you're going to run with it right away. And if you want to do that, the fastest way is to not reinvent the wheel. We already built the funnel for you. So you might as well just take the funnel that's already built and go crazy running with that. It also has a very AI supported process, right? So for those of you who are like, Joy, I love this idea, but you know what I would hate? I would hate to have to do the lab, registration page where people would buy the lab from me. I would hate that. I would hate to figure out, what emails, what social media posts, like how do I even begin promoting this to my audience? What is symptoms-based content? How do I do that really well? We built an AI supported process where you're going to use AI powered prompts. Talk about who is your client. It's going to tell you, okay, who is your client? What do you do for them? What are their problems? You're going to answer those questions. And then with the AI prompts, you're going to get the registration page copy, the thank you page copy, the marketing plan, the promotions, like all of that is just done for you with an AI powered process. Okay. We lean heavily into AI for your marketing, like support with your marketing, social media deployment with systems. We leave it up to our practitioners. How much do they use AI for integrating or, assessing any patient data? That's your side of the line. I would never advise you on how to use AI on the medical side of things, but for the marketing and sales and content deployment, we use the hell out of AI, and it has saved our practitioners hours and hours and hours in every single week. And it's also automated the process so that, a lot of it, our practitioners just show up, they do one video a week, and then we hook them up with a VA or an EA that does a process called interest compounding. And then all of that video gets shotgunned out on all of these other channels. But the practitioner does not do that themselves. Okay. I don't think that's the highest and best use of your time. You should spend a lot more time healing and a lot less time hustling. So I don't want you to have to do that. Okay. So if you love this concept and you're like, hell yeah, sign me up. Like I want to be able to do a lab test funnel. You do not have to be in our mastermind to have access to a pre-built funnel. You can just get it yourself and go nuts. Okay. That is a DIY program that does not come with my feedback, my coaching. In our mastermind, you have 5 days of access to me and my team. You have access to coaching and feedback. And, we're going to kind of kick your ass to do it right and do it really, really well. This is not that. Okay. The scan code that you're seeing on is you get the funnel, you get the lessons on how to do it, you get the AI prompts to deploy it. You can, if you're bootstrapping, you can do this yourself using this lab test funnel offer. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, for those of you that are interested in all of this, so you would want access to not just the lab test funnel, but all of our funnels, right? So if you don't have a group program yet, if you don't know how to host workshops, if you don't know how to host Allure, if you don't know how to promote yourself on social media, if you don't have a good business strategy, that's kind of our jam. Okay. We're called HealAtScale for a reason. We know you're good at healing. What you're typically not that good at is scaling yourself, right? How do we take what you're doing and scale it so that you make a lot more money and you protect a lot more of your time? If that's something that you're interested in, I want you to have a gateway to that too. And the first step for that, honestly, is to meet with our team and do a quick game plan session to assess, okay, like what's going right? What are you loving about your business? What's going wrong? What are you not loving? And then based on your answers to that, we'll show you our answers to those fixes. And if any of them work for you, then we'll give you access to those invitations. One of them being our Practitioner Accelerator Mastermind. That's my favorite. That's the people that I jump out of bed to serve every single day. All right. Tease is saying, thanks, Joy. I have your book and I need to dive in. Awesome, girl. Inside the book, make sure that you take advantage, okay? Because inside the book, there is this QR code that's there in the book, and it's going to take you directly to the workbook, okay? And I was kind of drawing all over my workbook, but I think I do have, yeah, I do. I have this one. So that one is going to take you to, let me get this out of the way. If you use the QR code, Tease, if you use the QR code, you're going to see that it takes you to this workbook, and the workbook literally helps you like chapter by chapter by chapter. It helps you not only just read what I'm put the words on the page, but it actually helps you go through every single exercise so that you can start putting this into play right away. Okay. So make sure that you take advantage of that workbook, because I built it so that each chapter, you're going to take one small step in the right direction to actually start deploying the process for yourself. Because what frustrates me more than anything is when there's great, like, there's clear information that we're sharing with you of success stories that made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for other practitioners, and then you don't know how to deploy that concept. You don't know how to implement that concept. Okay. Let's see is that the protocol to program? Oh, this code takes you to the program. Okay. So are you talking about the lab test funnel page? It should take you to a page that looks like this. Unless I put the wrong QR code up there. Let's see. So it should take you to a page that looks like this. Share screen. Yes, it should take you to a page that looks like this. Okay. And this is not free, right? Like if you want the funnel already done and you get the snapshot or QR code, yes, having the lab test funnel and getting started with it, that is something that you purchase for sure. So if you're telling me like, oh, that QR code for the lab test funnel takes you there, that is accurate. Okay. So if you're looking for the code that takes you to the book, let me get you that QR code as well. So if you're just looking to read the book and deploy on your own, then of course you can totally do that. You can get the book in digital format here, and it comes with a ton of videos of me walking you through each chapter and helping you fill out the pages in the workbook. Okay. If you're like, oh, I love this concept and I want to deploy this funnel like ASAP, then you would want the one that I put on screen previously, which is the lab test funnel. Okay. And now obviously that funnel already being built for you. There is an investment in yourself in that. But that investment for that funnel, having a pre-made funnel, that investment is going to save you years. And we have spent so much money between us and our clients, our private clients and our mastermind members. Literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars have been sent to these lab test pages that sell the lab. And we've tested what headlines work, where should the button go, what information needs to be on the page. So it's basically letting you stand on our shoulders of ad spend and experience to put that into play. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you're thinking about getting this lab test funnel, when you get the book through me, okay, so if you get the book not through Amazon, but if you buy the book through me, okay, oh, that's the workbook. You guys could grab the workbook there. Just use that code. Use that. I'll leave that one on screen for a second. You can grab the workbook that's in the book. You can get it there, okay? But let me tell you something. When you get this book from me, okay, so my team built this funnel to get the information about how much money these funnels are making for our practitioners out into the world and into the hands of more practitioners. Even if they're not our mastermind, I don't care. We just wanted everybody to know because it's been so game changing for the practitioners that have used it. So I wanted everybody to know. So it's like, I'm going to write a book about it and you can go get it. When you buy that book through my funnel, through that funnel, you will get it's called a one-time offer, right? So after you buy the book, you will see a video that lets book buyers only buy the lab test funnel for just $495. Okay. So I wanted every person who was willing to invest that $9.95, if they're a practitioner who was willing to throw down $10 toward opening their mind about doing their marketing completely differently, I told my team, I want those people to have access to the lab test funnel at a cheaper price. So the lab test funnel, which as you go, if you go to that retail page, you guys just saw it. If you go to that retail page, it's $9.95. Maybe it's $9.97. I think it's $9.95, $9.97. I don't remember. Go to the page and see. Okay. It's almost $1,000. Okay. But I told my team, if practitioners are willing to open their mind, they're willing to look at doing their marketing different. And I considered an indication that they're willing to do that because they're willing to buy the book and at least read about it and see what's possible. Those are the type of people that I want to reward and give more affordable access to our lab test funnel. So I had them build into that funnel. You'll see it after you buy the book and you're checking out. You'll see what's called a one-time offer. It'll be a video that explains, hey, lab test funnel is sold for nearly $1,000, but you can get it right now for $495. And the only way to access that pricing is through that book funnel. Okay. So through that, when you buy the $9.95 book, you get access to the lab test funnel for a much more attractive price. Okay. And that was because in my mind, too many practitioners are stuck in this old school marketing model that's not working. It's not working for them. It's just not. I know people who have been going from doing content and then driving like ad spend. Either they're doing organic content and ad spend to a webinar, and they're counting on that webinar to convert people into their higher ticket offers, their bigger packages, right? These 5, 7, 10K packages to work with you for 3, 5, 6, 7 months, whatever it is. Okay. So if they're willing to like shake it up and look at things differently, because that's not working anymore. The conversion mechanism, the conversion rates on those are not what they used to be. It used to be you could put in $1 and get $3, $4, $5, $10 out on your ad spend. That has tanked. Okay. It's completely tanked, which is fine. It's totally normal. Marketing changes, sales don't change as much as marketing tactics change, and marketing is changing a lot because of the advent of all of the social media algorithms, the advertising algorithms. Somebody needs to stay on top of that for you. So that's why we stay on top of that for you, so you can stay in the forefront of medicine. Okay. So because that system stopped working as effectively for our members, for our clients, we were like, oh shit, we need to dig in and find different ways for us to do it. And there are 3 top performing ways to change up your marketing game. Okay. Number 1 is to have a book funnel. Okay. You'll see my example of that book funnel when you go use that QR code and go to that. Okay. Book funnel works because it's not expensive, right? It's like that book is $9.95. So you've already filtered for buyers for a very small fee. So book funnel is number 1. Okay. Workshop funnel is number 2. Lab test funnel is number 3. Okay. And I attribute it being number 1, number 2, and number 3 because of the price structure. So if someone's going to buy a book from you, that's going to cost them, especially if it's the digital version, like $9.95. So let's call it under $20. Okay. Even if you're charging $14.95 for under $20, they can have an interaction to see if you're the person that they want to work with. Okay. If they're coming to a live workshop, that workshops tend to be in the $100, $150 range, somewhere in there. Some are higher, some are lower, but that's a little bit more expensive. And then a lab test, well, after we charge for the lab plus an education fee, that can be even more, especially if you're going right to a lab, like, I don't know, let's say GI map or something. Well, that test is going to cost you $400 something, like almost $400. And then you add money on top of it. So the entry level fee is now something that's let's just call it $450. So the reason I think they work best in this order, book, because book is under $20, workshop because workshop's under $200, and then lab under $500. So those are the top 3 mechanisms that are working. Those are the things that we help people put into play, because that's what's kicking ass right now in bringing people from all these free platforms into your world in a way where they have made an entry level investment. And that entry level investment screens them. So they're not a tire kicker and a freebie seeker. They're actually willing to invest some money. So you're interacting with a better quality of leads, right? They've already said yes, and they have the data, from the labs to do it. Okay. Let's see. It's not working. And that's the old school stuff we're taught in our training. You're totally right. You're totally right, Tease. And that's why I was owning it. Like, that's what used to work. And whoever taught you that, my friend, they're not evil. They're not bad. They're not sleazy, probably. It's just they're stuck in the old school method because that's what they learned. Like, that was the marketing that they learned. And they have not been keeping their finger on the pulse of the impact of algorithmic changes, online environment changes, marketing strategy changes, platform changes, right? How Meta changes, how Google changes, how YouTube changes, all these platforms. And if they're not keeping an eye on that, they're not noticing that I used to be able to go free content, invite people to a webinar, and I would make X amount of money. And now that X amount of money is itty bitty if it's working at all. Okay. So I consider it my fucking responsibility. Like, if people are going to trust me to be their coach, if people are going to trust me to help them create a business strategy and keep them in the forefront, it's my responsibility for me and my team to keep feeding you what's changing and how those changes in the online environment have to affect our marketing strategy. Anything else is going to let all of our marketing funnels go the way of the dinosaurs. Okay. I can tell you horror stories of people who have reached out to me via Instagram and told me that their coaches were just telling them, no, keep running ads to the webinar, keep running ads to the webinar. 10 grand down, 20 grand down. She got up to one of the I share in the book a story about somebody named Kelly. She was 60 grand down. 60 grand on ads with not one sale. Like, any coach who lets you do that without having you pivot and refresh your thinking on that funnel is like, that's where you get into like, okay, that's not right. You know, that someone has malintent if they're not taking good care of you. Okay. But whoever, if you were taught that, like, do your free content and then offer a free thing and get them on your list, you know, I don't think that person had any malice. I think they're just not staying on top of things. Okay. And honestly, there still is a place for free, free workbook, free guide, free whatever. And I'll tell you where I think that is. I think that the free thing is, it belongs, if you're going to speak on someone else's podcast, for example, please have a free asset, right? Have a free asset that you give away, because you're going to pull all of that brand new audience that might not know you, but that you're being edified by that podcast host. Totally great. Fine. Invite them to have a free thing. You know what I mean? And if you want to follow my particular beliefs in going straight to the low ticket offer, then if you were on that podcast, I'll just tell you my strategy straight up, what I would do. So if you have a huge audience of practitioners and you wanted me to come and speak on your podcast, what I would say is, hey, I'm going to give you this free workbook that comes with my best-selling book, Get Cash Pay Clients. But I don't even want you to pay it. I just want you to have the workbook for free. So if you go to my Instagram, and that's where I would just share my Instagram is Real Joy Houston, just go to Real Joy Houston right now and follow me and message me the word workbook. And I'm going to give it to you for free. You're not going to have to give me your name. You're not going to have to give me your email. I'm not going to be sending you a ton of stuff. You just have it. And my info's in there. If you like it and you want to connect with me, it'll be easy for us to connect. I would do that on a podcast, because then that's going to get me the followers and the engagement on that platform. And then I'm just going to deliver a free asset. Okay. Now I can do that because I have confidence. Like, I have lists, I have good ad spend. My business is in a healthy place. Okay. So if I was going to advise you to use a free funnel, that's where I would advise that you use it. But for me, with where I'm at with my business, even on a podcast, I would say, hey, just DM me this word and you're going to get the free thing. I'm not even going to ask for your email, because I would rather show up on that podcast with an audience that's new to me and just be delivering value and not even look like the type of person that's going to force them to give me their email. I would rather do that. And then anyone who likes the workbook reaches out, of course, in that DM where they're asking me for the workbook. It's a perfect place for me, or for you, if you follow this strategy too, to say, hey, obviously, if you want this workbook, you're ready for more cash pay clients. Like, what's the volume that that's in your practice right now? Like, what's the volume of cash pay clients that you got right now? Tell me about that. Maybe I have some additional tips for you. I can start chatting with prospects right there in the DMs where they're asking for the workbook. And because I'm good at that, I would probably get people on a consult, and some of those people would buy. They might buy a lab test funnel. They might buy a product that I recommend. They might become a member of our mastermind. but probably something is going to come from not the vast majority, but certainly 30, maybe 40% of those people. I'm going to be able to parlay that chit chat to deliver them the workbook. I'm going to be able to turn that into a sale of some sort in my business. And so can you. Okay. And if you don't have a good skill set of that's called sell by chat, when you're striking up a conversation in DMs and then you move that into a paid consult, a paid lab test, working with you, that's called sell by chat. If you don't have sell by chat skills, that is another thing that we are really committed to all of our practitioners mastering when they're in our mastermind. And the best part is we have you come up with the sell by chat conversations, and then we teach you how to pass that off to your VA. So you are not the ones who are doing all those sell by chat conversations. Your VA gets them started for you. And then when it's obvious that the person is downloading, like they're sharing information about what's going on with their health, then they tap you into the conversation and you bring it across the finish line. Okay. How nice would that be, right? Not to have to do all of it, but to have the bulk of the conversation kick-started in a way that you designed that conversation, right? Obviously, the conversation you need to give them the example of how you want the conversations to go. But once you do that, it can be passed off with an EA. All right. You guys, take the time to answer those 9 questions for yourself. Okay. If you want more information and access on, getting the lab test funnel at a very discounted price by way of that funnel, there's a one-time offer in that funnel, then I highly recommend you go use this QR code or just go to getcashpayclients.com. And there's no dash in it in the website. It's just getcashpayclients.com. Okay. If you go to that URL and you get yourself the book, you will be invited to get access to that whole lab test funnel at a very advantageous price. Okay. Reach out to me on Instagram, leave comments here. My team and I are very engaged with you guys. So if you have questions, we are here to answer them for you. Us putting out this information without you putting it into play is really just shelf help, right? It just sits on the shelf, doesn't do anything. So make sure that you get your questions answered so that you can actually put this information into play for your health business. All right. Everybody take care. I'm so appreciative for all that you do. I know that it's stressful times right now. So more people's health is being, sort of exacerbated. Their health problems are exacerbated due to all the just political strife and stress in the air. So people really need you. So please, the one thing I will say as I say goodbye today is take good care of yourself. Okay. Take good care of yourself